Let's head into this live broadcast by bringing you the latest about the COVID-19 situation in the United States, where President Donald Trump has shifted his rhetoric on the coronavirus. He has now warned that the pandemic will get worse before it gets better. This is one of Trump's rare acknowledgements that the outbreak has in fact been worsening across the United States.
We are in the process of developing a strategy that's going to be very, very powerful. We've developed them as we go along. Some areas of our country are doing very well. Others are doing less well. It will probably, unfortunately, get worse before it gets better. Something I don't like saying about things, but that's the way it is. It's what we have. You look over the world. It's all over the world.
The US president also encouraged Americans to wear a mask. In fact, Trump even pulled a mask out of his pocket, saying that he carries one around. Mask wearing has become a partisan issue in the country, with some of the Trump supporters saying that mandatory face covering infringes on their liberties.
And I carry the mask when I have to go. I went into Walter Reed Hospital the other day. I have the mask right here. I carry it, and I will use it gladly. No problem with it. And I've said that, and I say, if you can, use the mask.
Trump also said that he undergoes COVID-19 tests in every 2 or 3 days.
Well, I didn't know about more than one. I do take probably on average a test every 2 days, 3 days. And I don't know of any time I've taken 2 tests in 1 day, but I could see that happening.
For more details on this story, our correspondent Jagriti Dave joins us live from Washington, D.C. Jagriti, welcome and thanks so much for joining us. Now, I'd like to focus our discussion today on the U.S. President's recent coronavirus briefing, which was very different from most others. Now, we've seen a very confident U.S. President since the onset of this crisis, one who believed that the U.S. was testing better than most countries and handling the crisis very well. And now, for the first time, we see Trump saying that the crisis will in fact get worse before it gets better. So why the change in tone?
Yes, there was a marked difference in the president's approach to the briefing and also to the pandemic itself. He conceded that things would probably get worse before they get better. He was concerned about the surge in cases across the Sun Belt and southern and western states across the United States. Some people observing the president and looking into his responses to the pandemic and his administration's handling of the pandemic suggest that perhaps this change it could be because his aides have noted the president's position in the polls, where he's trailing behind his Democratic rival Joe Biden. But it also could be that there's been suggestions that the president's aides have been trying to get him to take a more sort of cautionary tone when it comes to the pandemic. They've been urging him to talk about mask wearing. In fact, many top Republicans have been publicly saying that the words about masks should be coming from the president, not the vice president who leads the coronavirus task force and has spoken about the need to wear masks when social distancing is not possible. But really, it's only in the last few days that the president himself has come out with those words. And so it seems that he's come under some pressure to make those changes.
Right. Now, let's also focus on the ongoing battle between the U.S. president and the country's top infectious diseases expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Fauci has recently said that he considers himself more of a realist than an alarmist. So what does he mean by saying this?
So this, perhaps in response to something that the president said in a Fox News interview on Sunday, where he called Dr. Anthony Fauci a bit of an alarmist when he was asked about their relationship, when he was talking about the health experts and their cautionary recommendations about how to handle the pandemic. And so that is perhaps what Dr. Fauci was referring to. But there is a general sense that there is a bit of a division between the president and health experts, where health experts have been talking about the need for Americans to wear masks. Indeed, there's been many health experts have been suggesting that there should be a nationwide mandate for the wearing of masks, something that President Trump has resisted, saying in that same interview, in fact, that he wants people to have a certain freedom. And this is something that has been emulated by certain state governors, the state of Florida in particular, Ron DeSantis, who is a friend of President Trump's and takes a similar stance to him when it comes to mask wearing and handling of the pandemic. Governor Ron DeSantis has resisted implementing a statewide mask mandate against the recommendations of many health experts, where Florida is seeing an incredible, frightening surge in cases.
Right. My final question before we wrap up our discussion. So what is the situation of the outbreak on ground in the United States as of now? We know that cases are surging, but people seem to be flouting social distancing norms and even disregarding the use of masks.
Yes, so that has been a problem. Many health experts are suggesting that, and local officials in the various states where there have been surges, like Texas, Arizona, California, Florida. In California in particular, something that the governor there said was he urged young people to wear face masks to maintain the social distancing that he's just suggested that they may have been lax about doing, and that might have contributed to some of the surges. In Florida, there are a lot of young people who are out and about and perhaps not maintaining social distancing and not wearing masks. In place in Florida, there's sort of anecdotally a sense that Floridians are very reluctant, resistant to being told what to do by the government, and so there is a sense that they are perhaps not adhering to some of the recommendations and the rules that have been put in place to try to curb the virus. So that is a real problem. But it's and the mixed messaging that comes from the top itself, where you have the vice president talking about the need to wear masks, but the president only just recently talking about wearing masks. So there is some sort of confusion. Critics of the administration's handling saying that there's not a centralized strategy in place that makes it clear what needs to be done to curb the coronavirus.
Right. Jagruti, thank you so much for all your inputs and thank you for joining us on this story.